Good evening and welcome to Humans of CSU. This is the show on CTV that sits down with all the humans that make CSU the great place that it is. Tonight is a very special show because it is our last show of the semester, and so we wanted to take some time to reflect on some of the great people we got to showcase on the show tonight. So for tonight, we have picked out 3 of our favorite moments from the show this past semester. So without further delay, let's take a look at our first favorite moment. Back in October, we got to sit down with some amazing people. This first memory is from that show when we got to sit down with a professor from the CSU Journalism Department, Michael Humphrey. Let's take a look back. Joining me now in studio is Dr. Michael Humphrey, a professor of journalism and media communication here at CSU. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So what's your favorite part about being a professor at CSU?
I mean, just dealing with students. You know, I like young people. They keep me young. As many of my students know, I'm sort of naturally immature, so I enjoy joking around with them and getting to know them, and I enjoy talking about real life with them too. A lot of students come into my office and we talk about real things, and even in class we really get into some issues that matter to people both socially and personally, and I really enjoy that part of it, the interaction. Yeah, that was my favorite part of your class when I took it last semester, was the fact that it was so applicable to real life, and you just kind of walk out of there and you, like, I can actually use this and use the stuff that I'm learning in my classes and apply it to my future career. So, well, you know, you are the kind of student that's important to that class, because if we don't have students who engage and like, you know, think through what it means to do media in this digital world, and what it means to be a good person, what it means to be a good journalist. Those are the conversations we have, and I really believe the students teach the class as much as I do. So students like you are perfect for that class.
So you say the word digital or world, and I know we talked a lot about that, but I'm sure people in the journalism department as well as like other students can kind of see that evolving. What ways do you see it evolving and changing? I
mean, you know, in a big picture way, from the time I was your age, you know, which was really before the internet. It wasn't before the internet, but it was before the web, and it was before the internet had become, you know, a daily part of our lives. You know, a very few number of people actually made the decisions about what we were going to see on television and in newspapers and here on the radio, and that has massively changed. And I think we're just seeing more and more permutations of that change. You know, what does it mean when everybody gets a channel? When everybody can talk in multiple channels, you know, and I think we're still getting used to it. I think we're very much toddlers in this digital world, and so we're still trying to figure out, you know, where do I fit? Who am I in these places? And what does it mean to be good in the digital world? You know, because I think we have a pretty good idea of that in the offline world, but online I think we're still learning, and I think that's going to take a lot of time, you know.
Yeah, I agree. How long have you been teaching at CSU?
I came here in 2011 from New York City. I had just gotten my master's degree at NYU. It was coming home because I grew up in Colorado. I grew up in Westminster, Colorado, and so it was the first time I'd been home living in Colorado for 25 years. And so that was a big change for me. And I had never taught college before. I started as the student media advisor, but then I started teaching a class the second semester I was here, so I'm going on 7 years now. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Not that that's a long time.
No, it's a long time. But it's gone fast.
Yeah. What are some of the ways that you've had to kind of adapt your teaching to all the new technologies and, you know, patterns that we've seen in the journalism world?
That's a great question, because, you know, when I first started, I had a concept. All the things that we talk about today were there, most of them anyway. Like, people were really into YouTube when I started teaching, and people were just getting used to Twitter as a really important tool, and Facebook was already huge, you know. But what we didn't really care about at that point was Instagram and Snapchat, you know. And so as the new platforms came along that we were looking at, I had to decide, is this a trend or is this a fad? You know, are we gonna be talking about this in a couple more years, or is it gonna completely go away? And I think that's the main thing I'm always asking is, what do I teach students that's going to be relevant 5 years from now? Because otherwise your college education isn't worth that much. And I've found that really, like, For one thing, the growth of social media platforms has slowed down quite a bit, since Instagram and Snapchat and Pinterest, but also there are just really classic things to learn about community engagement, about storytelling, that really fit all the platforms in one way or another, and learning how to read them and then fit into them is really the critical thing we teach, and if we can learn that, then we can adapt to almost anything.
Yeah. How do you, so that was, I just love that about your class, that it was just so relevant. How do you kind of determine what is a fad and what is a trend, and what you deem worthy to teach to us?
I still do reporting. I report for Forbes about digital media, and one of the reasons I do that, it's actually takes a lot more time than I have, but one of the reasons I do is I get access to leaders in this world, in the digital media world, because that's what I cover. And so I tend to ask them a lot of questions that don't go in the articles, but will go into my classroom, So I'm getting a lot of free advice from people from New York City, London, Los Angeles, San Francisco, about what to be thinking about, and I use that all the time to help students. And then I read all the time too, and then you start to get a nose for what's gonna work and what's not. Partially from listening to students, as you know, I listen a lot to what students say about their own uses, and that probably teaches me as much as talking to the experts. When students tell me I like this and this is why, or I don't and this is why, I learn a lot from that, and that's a really important part of the class, is me learning from you.
Right. That's awesome, because we love that open dialogue between ourselves and our professors. I think that just helps us learn so much better than when it's like a lecture. But I think that incorporating the skills into your classes really helps us. What's one of your favorite teaching moments that you've had here?
I'll never forget. This was probably my second year. One day I asked, I was kind of I started out thinking a professor had to lecture for 50 minutes. And even though I didn't like hearing my voice for that long, I did it because I thought that's what you did. And one day I asked a question, just because it interested me, and the class got out of my control. We talked about that question for the rest of the class. And I remember seeing in the students' faces how much more engaged they were. And in my own life, I was like, oh my gosh, I learned so much today. And I thought, that might be a better model. And that really started to change the way I taught. And that will always be, I was probably, like I said, I was probably 2 years in. So for 2 years, I just tortured students with lectures. But then after that, I was like, wait, I think we can have conversations. And as long as I know what we need to talk about by the end of the class, we could probably pull this off if we did this. And that's what I've done ever since. Yeah.
What are some of your favorite things to teach to the students?
I love talking about user experience. I love talking about what it means to be on the other side of the screen, because we're a production department. We talk about producing content and telling stories all the time, but what does it mean to be on the other side of that? When do you care? When are you engaged? And when we think about ourselves as users, I think we become better storytellers. And so I love, in every point of the class, whether we're teaching how to do social media, whether we're teaching hyperlocal journalism, or how to write something, how to do video, a lot of what we do is consume media and talk about it, what we do and don't like about it. And I love that, because I get to hear all these amazing pieces of feedback that I think are informing us about how to be better storytellers.
Yeah. So the consumer experience is changing, as we all know, just as consumers and as students. So you just got back from a virtual reality conference in Columbia.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, we were talking about transmedia. That was the big topic of the day, and that's something that we teach in the class, the idea that a story can cross over media when it makes sense to. So some things are better for video, some things are better for audio, some things are better for writing. And so there were people I was the only person from the United States. My wife and I were the only two people from the U.S. there. And so it was just so fascinating to hear people from all over the world talk about storytelling.
Yeah. And how it's different.
Yeah, and then Columbia is an amazing place.
Oh, gosh, it sounds so
everybody
beautiful.
Should go there. It's incredible.
I'll buy my plane ticket tonight.
Do it.
It was amazing to get to sit down with a much-loved professor from the CSU journalism department. So we're going to take a short break now, but coming up, we're going to continue our countdown of the best moments of the show this semester. So don't go anywhere.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
Welcome back to CTV. You're watching Humans of CSU. We are in the midst of our favorite moments from this past season. We've had a lot of great moments from this past semester, but one of my favorites was when we got to sit down with Jack Savoy, who is a fashion major here at CSU. Let's see what he had to say. So without further delay, joining me now is Jack Savoy, a senior in the CSU fashion department. Thanks for coming on tonight, Jack.
Thank you.
So you're a senior. That must be exciting.
Yes, it's very exciting. I'm ready to be done.
I bet. Do you have any fun plans for after graduation? I know we were just kind of talking.
I mean, I have an internship in the spring, but I don't know. Hopefully it gets me a job out there in New York, but we'll see. We'll see.
That's the ultimate dream, huh?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
What have been some of your favorite moments throughout your years at CSU?
Oh my gosh, there's just been so many moments. You know, I think being a freshman, I was like, oh, I don't want to be here. But, you know, I mean, as the years have gone on, you're like, oh man, like this has been so much fun.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And I mean, a lot of different things. Just also like fashion-wise, like just developing like the way that you produce clothes has just been like so amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun process. What's that like?
It's intensive. I mean, it's a lot of work, you know, and I think going into it, I was like, oh, like, it's just like sewing or whatever, but there's a lot of, like, different aspects of the industry that we've learned about, like, merchandising, product development, fashion, design, and I'm on the design side, but there's a lot of different little areas, and they all work together.
Yeah. So you're on the design side. That's really cool. You get a lot of creative freedom there. What kind of like inspires you to create a design, and how do you go about that?
So, I mean, I'll see it in my head, and I just like right away, like I'll just get like a napkin or a piece of paper, something that's like near me, and I'm like, I need like a pen or something, and I'll just sketch it out really quick. I just want to get my idea out there, and you know, then it just like develops over time, and you're like, okay, well maybe I'll just like change this, or I'll change this, or I'll add this, you know, take away that, and then it just builds and builds and builds, and then when you're in the design stage, it sometimes you're like, all right, I need to take this away, or I need to add this. It just, over time, it's just like taking away and adding, taking away and adding,
Cool. How do you kind of like determine what you want to, you know, take away and add? Is it like stuff you see or what you feel?
Yeah, you know, if I'm feeling like, oh, this shoulder really isn't working, like I'll just, you know, scrap it and redo it. Yeah, I'm kind of a perfectionist, so it has to be perfect.
That seems like a good thing.
Yeah.
So what's kind of the next step after the design stage? Do you all work together in creating one design?
Yeah, you know, right now, like in school, like it's just like design, but like in industry, you know, you have the designers, and then you have the product developers and the merchandisers. So the designers will like come up with it first, and then the product developers are like the bridge between the design and merchandisers, and they kind of make sure everything like meets specifications and things like that, and then it transfers over to the merchandisers who then market the product essentially.
Cool. That sounds so fun.
Yeah.
What are your classes like? Do you get to take art and?
I don't know. I mean, yes and no. Like I've taken like art classes like on my own, but you have like fashion illustration classes and pattern making classes and draping classes, and then you know you have your basic required classes. But, yeah.
It sounds like you're about ready to go on Project Runway.
Oh yeah, that's a show.
That's what you're training for.
Yeah, maybe.
Why did you decide to go into fashion?
You know, I wanted to do architecture. And I was really into like Legos as a kid, but then I was really into fashion, and I kind of blame my parents for that. They really instilled that in me as a child. Like, we would always buy the latest things, we dressed really well, and I just really loved the way that things looked, and I was like, I want to make that. Like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh. What are some of your favorite stores to shop in?
Ooh, I can do some damage in Nordstrom. I can do some damage at Barney's. Yeah, but yeah. Bergdorf's in New York. It's always a fun one. Yeah.
Those sound like fun places to go if you have the money.
Yeah. Oh, if you have the money, they're expensive. They're expensive.
Yeah.
If you're not really, don't have the budget.
Yeah. I'm more of a clearance section at Nordstrom type gal, but
Why not? Why not?
What are some of your favorite things to sketch out and design? Like, I don't know, maybe like shirts or jackets or.
I'm really into really tailored looks, so like really tailored dresses and jackets and pants and tops. So I'm more of a minimalist. Okay. And so I really just love like a clean line. Like, I'm not super crazy with my designs. Like, I'll maybe throw like a houndstooth in it, and it's like, all right, that's my pattern. That's it. Yeah.
So do you stray away from patterns, or do you
I do. Yeah, I'm not really like a loud print kind of person. Like, some things will attract my eye that are like a loud print, but if it's done in like a right way. Yeah.
Do you have any predictions for, like, we're kind of getting into fall now. I know today it was like 80 degrees, but it's supposed to get colder. So do you have any good fashion tips for the fall season?
I was expecting a lot of autumnal tones, and I'm not really seeing it. There's a lot of like navies and blacks, and but yellow is really big right now. I was just at Fashion Week, and I went to a what was it called? It was just like an event, and they quoted it, Gen Z yellow is what they called it. And so yellow is going to be like a really big thing like this fall.
What's Gen Z yellow?
Gen Z yellow. So it's like, Generation Z yellow. Yeah. You know how there was like millennial pink? It's now Gen Z yellow.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was a fashion show in New York like?
It was intense, that was an experience in its own. I had never been to Fashion Week, and I got invited to a few shows, and I was like, let's just do this. Like, let's go. I turned 21, so I was like, this will be fun, like this weekend. And I had friends that were going out too. And but your first show, you sit down and the lights go down, then they come up, and then it just starts, and it goes quick. It's like 10 minutes, and then you're out of there. But you see all these celebrities, and so
who was one of the coolest people that you saw?
I saw Kim Kardashian, I saw Karlie Kloss, and
oh my gosh!
But on the way into the Pamela Rowland show, there were photographers, and I was like, oh, this is my moment, street style, like I'm gonna do this. And then Olivia Coppel, who was Nick Jonas's ex, walked in front of me, and they were like, can you move? We're waiting for Olivia. Yes, I was like, I'll move.
Oh my gosh, I would have been so starstruck.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's very stressful at the same time.
So you have a blog. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I started it over 3 years ago. It's going to be 4 years old in March. And I just kind of wanted to like express like my own personal style and like what I'm seeing like in lifestyle and trends, and I really wanted to do it to get invited to fashion shows. That's why I first started a blog. But then it developed into like its own being in a sense, and then I was just like, you know what, like I really just like love this. Like the shows like can come if they want, but like I just really love what I'm doing with my blog. Sure.
What are some of the things that you write about, like, so fashion and trends? I heard it was also a lifestyle blog.
Yeah, so it's fashion and lifestyle. So I'll do menswear, women's wear, what I'm wearing, and then lifestyle. So just any like things that I'm seeing in homes or things like that, food. Yeah.
How is that like kind of representative of who you are?
I think it relays definitely into like what I'm doing in design too.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Jack made some great points, and I loved getting to learn a little bit more about the CSU fashion and design major. Well, Rams, it is time for another break here, but don't go anywhere, because up next we conclude the show with our favorite moment from this past semester.
You are listening to 90.5 KCSU Fort Collins with DJ Meanbeat,
DJ Nightshade, DJ Wildcard. Music to me is one of the best creative outlets that I can think of. An escape from the real world.
Music to me is an expression of love.
To go from like folk to hip hop to like classic rock, 1960s bossa nova. With music, there's like no boundaries.
I work here because I love music, and you do too.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
Welcome back, Rams. We're glad you're joining us for our favorite moment here from Humans of CSU. This is our last show of the semester, and we've been counting down our favorite moments from the past semester shows, and you made it just in time for our favorite memory. Back in September, we got to sit down with Ramblings, an a cappella group here on CSU. It was such a pleasure getting to know the Ramblings and to see their performance. Our favorite moment from this past semester was the performance the Ramblings put on for us. So let's take a look. If you are just joining us, welcome to Humans of CSU. Right now we are going to have a live performance from the CSU a cappella group, Ramblings.
Now this might sound like a sad song, but I just laughed since you moved on. 'Cause I was lost in pain, and frankly you're insane. You were no good for me, and I was no good for you. Raising all the glass to cup, running it back and thinking, oh my goodness. Reaching for the ceilings, me alone. All this push and pull should have been alone. Playing it back and thinking, oh my goodness. I'm so good, I'm so sick of falling in love. I'm so tired of looking I'm no good at falling in love. Now this might sound like a sad song, but I just smiled since you moved on. I was lost in pain, and frankly you're insane. You were no good for me, and I was no good for you. Now this might sound like a sad song, but I just lost since you moved on. I was lost in pain, and frankly you're insane. You're no good for me, and I'm no good for you. Feeling out the worst and the best of me. This thought has been my church and my therapy. Now I'm all alone and thinking, oh my goodness, I'm no good at loving. I'm so sick of falling in love. I'm so tired of looking I'm no good at falling in love. Now this might sound like a sad song, but I just laughed since you moved on. I was lost in pain, and frankly you're insane. You're no good for me, no good for you. I'm no good at lying and kissing. Used to be mine, to flame in the fire. How did you get in my way? I'm so tired of swinging missing. Used to be all, but no, there'll be no crying today. Now this might sound like a sad song, but I just smiled since you moved on. 'Cause I was lost in pain, and frankly you're insane. You were no good, no
I could sing like that. I was trying to sing along, but it's probably better for everyone that I wasn't. So. Thank you all so much for tuning into this show. And tomorrow, catch your local news, weather, and entertainment on CTV.
Oh, really, camera 3?
They did great, and it was amazing to see a performance from them and to learn more about a cappella. So it's been an amazing semester here with Humans of CSU, and I have had so much fun getting to know all the humans that make CSU the fantastic place that it is. I think the best takeaway that I've had from this show is knowing that every face that passes us by in the crowd has a story, and I'm so grateful that I got to learn a little bit more about them. So with CTV, I'm Sam Gaston. Have a good night, Rams.